I think Frank's unique quality was he had that capacity to unify all the traditions because he had such a knowledge. So his recordings show that, starting with Dublin. And he raised the profile of the Dublin singing tradition as well, by going back to Zosimus and then Dominic Behan and his research and his LPs, his first LPs, which contain a lot of the Dublin songs. But then his knowledge of, songs from Elizabeth Cronin up to Inishowen, whatever singers had a body of song, he was able to. I think he was just such a font of knowledge, as I said, a tower of song. I think that's Leonard Cohen's phrase, borrowing it there. But he only started coming into the club then, really, to my mind, he only started coming in sometime in the 90s,
Okay.
Yeah. He had his own singing session in the Brazen Head, and then there was Liam Weldon was involved in Mother Redcaps, and Phil Callery was in the Green Linnet. This was back in the 70s, late 70s and 80s. I suppose that's one of the highlights of the club's calendar year, the calendar of events at the moment is the Frank Harte Festival. And it's the one that requires the most work and planning. It's a kind of collective effort, from all the committee get involved in doing different parts. And the Frank Harte Festival has grown and grown. And, some years you think it couldn't get any better, but actually it just seems to get better all the time. I think the last two in particular were fantastic. And I think it was Jerry O'Reilly who started off the idea of a walking tour. I know he did the Kilmainham and then the trip to the Phoenix Park with the Invincibles, the story of the Invincibles. And then I continued with the 7098 walk, which started in the Croppies Acre and moved to Collins Barracks and up to Smithfield Square and ended at Green Street Courthouse, and then back to the Brazen Head where the planning for 7098 took place. So that worked really well, and the numbers have grown and grown, I mean, people turned up people who actually even hadn't been to some of the events in the festival turned up for the walk. I think something like Sunday morning, and then it's a totally different experience singing, for example, The Rising of the Moon, or singing Dunlavin Green in the Croppies Acre and singing it in the Góilín. So it's what I think my daughter's involved in theatre. She has this term, it's called site-specific. Yeah, we're doing a play, it's site-specific. So we were site-specific, as in we were in Collins Barracks or Smithfield, where some of the rising had been planned. And I have a very strong memory of Philip Breen doing Robert Emmett's speech from the dock outside of the courthouse, Green Street, and Barry Gleeson singing Robert Emmett. And a friend of mine, Claire Eustace, who played in a group, I was in an all-female group called McCullough in the 80s, an all-female band. Claire came along and played Slieve Naman in Croppies Acre, and she's a very fine fiddle player, and it just was amazing, the actual feeling there among in the actual Croppies Acre, not the small triangle, the full Croppies Acre there beside the memorial with Seamus Ennis, Seamus Heaney's poem, Requiem for the Croppies. So then, of course, the idea of the walking tour has developed even more. Fergus did a great walk in Glasnevin, and then Frank Nugent did Dublin Can Be Heaven, and he started the idea of doing, which worked out really well, the idea of doing a booklet with the words and a little bit of information about the location. And last year, then we had in Dublin City in 1913. So that has very much grown, and it's a highlight of the festival. But really, all of the events around the Frank Harte Festival now are very well attended, and there's a great merging of traditions, you know, from people from America, England, Scotland, and all the Irish, different Irish traditions, you know, from Donegal, Carrickaveen to Aberdeen, you know, they all merge there for the Frank Harte.